Welcome everybody. Today we are doing the Sumo Deadlift as a critique video, and we are going to do it with the master himself, my coach Sam Alduenda. So I'm going to play the video for you first so you can see what a sumo pretty much looks like. So it's not going to be a critique video, it's going to be me telling you how to deadlift based on what Sam is doing. So first of all, you need to have a little bit of context. At the time of this video, this is about 320 pounds, 140 kilos for like some very easy rep. Sam is 72 or 74 years old at that time and weighs 160 pounds. So this is double body weight deadlift for 3-4 reps with great ease, as you've seen. So let me put it again. If you want a sumo, that's how you should be doing it, right there. There's a few things that we can talk about that he's doing with his shoulder that are not necessary, but I will explain why he's going through it. But first things first is you have to see the master at play, my coach Sam Alduenda. So let's talk about the setup. So this is a gorgeous setup. So Sam is starting with his back, let's redo this, with his back pretty much perpendicular to the ground. The reason he's doing that is because at that moment he's loading his hammies like crazy. And you're gonna see him rotate back right there in order to keep the tension in the hammies and the glutes where it belongs. So as he starts to move forward, the first thing I want you to notice when he rotates back is I want you to take a look at his knees. And this is pretty much his line. So we would like the line of his shins to be perpendicular to the ground, which is honestly very, very close. He's probably there. This would be perfection, but no one has perfect leverage. So you're going to see that pretty much he's staying like this, right? So as he rocks back, you can tell that from here, right? As he rocks back, what do I mean? That means that you see his butt, right, going this way. Like his shins are basically not moving. Look at that. There's no movement from there, which means all that action going that way is entirely on the hammies and the glutes. What he is not doing is loading his quads while the knee goes forward, right? That would be toward the quads, which is, by the way, what I do, which is wrong. What he's doing instead is he's keeping all the tension in his glutes and hammies. And again, that line of his shins right there, look at that. Nothing moves, right? It's all in the hammies and glutes, so that's perfect. At that moment, he's doing that thing he's doing with his head is like that. Is not necessary. He's doing this with his head to tell himself that he's ready to lift. That's actually like a lifting trick where the second he lifts his head, he's ready to go. You don't need to do that. That's just his thing. So first thing we're going to look at, so he's about to pull, right? So first of all, shins. Like if this is perpendicular to the ground, he's pretty much there, I would say. Right, so it's very, very close to perpendicular with the ground. His hips are obviously far, 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 far lower than his shoulder, and so, well, which is not what I do. And we're gonna see what that angle looks like when he starts lifting. So, is he loaded? So first of all, like the second he pulls, so like he's taking the slack of the bar, right? While he's taking the slack of the bar, we see a slight movement of the body at levels like that, right? So we see slack. So like right here is loaded, and then the weight starts coming up, right? So it could be probably a little bit better loaded for that weight, but again, Sam is 72 and he's not competing anymore, and he's still training. But in competition times, I would not might not have, he probably would have been loaded a bit better. Now, what I want you to, so the second is breaking the ground right here, so you can tell from looking right there. This is where he's breaking the ground. There we go. So he's breaking the ground. So what do we want to see? We want to see two things. We want to see if the hips and the shoulders go up at the same time, right? And like you see a slight tilt. The reason there's a slight tilt is the same reason, is because he's not fully loaded here. When he goes up, he's slightly unloaded, and so that the weight drops him forward, but ever so much, right? This is, look, this is basically picture perfect. The second he finds his load, which is right when the bar breaks off the floor, his shoulder go up faster than his butt. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. And at the same time, what we're noticing right here is that the knees are not going forward. The knees are going back. So it's a basically perfect squat in a way. And we see that motion, everything going up together. So this is pretty much the setup I would like. Again, I would just make him load a little bit more, but that's because it's a critique video. His form is great. So look at that. Look at the back position on there, you know, straight as an arrow, the difference between the hip position and the shoulder position, all that stuff. Look at that. Like the second he find load, like the shoulder are moving back faster than the butt is coming up this way. This is great. I mean, this is perfect. And so he's coming here. And so when he's there, what I would tell all lifters is to push the hips forward. Squeeze your butt, push forward so that the hips finish. Instead of that, Sam is going to do that thing right here. If you look, he's actually going to bend the elbows and rock the shoulders back. So that don't do that one. This right here, that stuff he's doing with his elbow is actually dangerous. Like, because now you're curling the weight, and so he's pushing his hips reasonably so forward, but I would say it's still his lower back. I'm going to explain to you in a second why he's doing it. There's a reason actually for that. But you see that bend of the bicep right there, that's very dangerous actually. That you don't want to do. That right here, this right here, that curl motion like that, he's doing that with his supinated hand. You are at risk to pop your bicep when you do that. Please do not do that. I'm going to explain to you why Sam is doing it this way. Because he got turned down a lift in competition for not having his hips on his shoulder on top of his hip. This is the one thing the judges are looking at when you do a sumo. You don't have that problem with the conventional deadlift. It's because it's very easy to finish the last few inches of a movement on a conventional deadlift. The problem with the sumo usually is not off the floor, it's the lockout position. So whenever someone does sumo, what they're looking at, what the judges are looking at are muted hips. Right? They're going to look to see if the hips right there are going to stay in this position or go through, which means the shoulders are going to be in the same line right here as the hips, right? So they're going to want to see that those shoulders and those hips are in that straight line. So since he got turned down the lift that way one time, what he's doing now is he's rocking his shoulders back like that. He's just bringing the shoulders back this way to give the signal to the judge that the lift is done. So that was a pure competition trick he was doing. But again, if we look at what the action of the biceps, and I would never criticize my coach, but like all I'm going to see is don't do that. You want to know why it's bad? Like that's simple. Look at what the weight is doing. So it's coming up, down. I mean, so it's going too up. It's just curling the weight. See that? And so that is basically almost like a shrug. Doing, doing, doing. So instead of the bar staying, he has to drop down. It's more pressure. So that means what? That means that the bicep actually is going to load, unload. Which means when he's coming, he's going to load the bicep and unload it to go down. And then when you do that with a lot of weight, it's really, really dangerous. But again, Sam was doing that because he got no rep in a competition, and after that he promised that would never happen again. He did that at the world stage. At the World Championship, and did not like it. So outside of that, his deadlift arm is perfect. So I'm going to finish the video. Look at him in real life, just popping that. So even if we look at the last few reps, let's say at the last one, because now he finds a better load. Right. So you still see when he resets. So what I'm looking at, for example, is right here. Right. Let me redo that. Right here. That's when you see it's not loaded. See like that movement in the shoulder right there? I don't know if you guys see that, but look here. See that? How much the shoulder is moving there. That's the unloaded, right? Like what I would like is him to find the load exactly in this position, which means instead of doing this movement right here, where the knees are moving, is to find load right. That would be the starting position right there. And then from there, everything is perfect. Look at that. Now that he's loaded, look at his back position right here. Look at that. It's perfect. Like that's your sumo position. Like from here, there. So like the weight starts to go off the floor. So you go from here, look at his back position, like the weight is going straight up. There's none of that stuff right there. That does not happen, right? So we have a perfectly straight back. We have the hips going up. We have the knees going this way, and we have none of the funky stuff happening. So look at that. Exactly. So all this is perfect. Now the only difference would be here, where I would tell Sam to push just to squeeze his butt. He knows that, don't worry. To squeeze his butt and move his hips forward to finish, and not do this thing with the shoulder, because that's like, I don't like to see that on the neck either, by the way. Like this movement, like that shrug right here, like that on the shoulder, on the neck, on the bicep. Ow. So don't do that. Basically, instead, just when you're in that position, right? So from about here, right? From here, just squeeze your butt, push forward. That's all you need. And then you finish the lift. But look how gorgeous his sumo is. From the setup to the loading to the execution, the man was a master of the sumo deadlift. My coach, Sam Alduenda. Thank you, guys.